The first thing I figured out and learned, sometimes the hard way, about entrepreneurship is that the core, the essence of entrepreneurship is about making meaning. Many, many people start companies to make money, the quick flip, the dot-com phenomena. And I have noticed in both the companies that I've started and funded and been associated with, that those companies that are fundamentally founded to change the world, to make the world a better place, to make meaning, are the companies that make a difference. They are the companies to succeed. My naive and romantic belief is that if you make meaning, you will probably make money. But if you set out to make money, you will probably not make meaning and you won't make money. So my first thought is you need to make meaning. That should be the core of why you start a company. There are 3 ways to make meaning. First is to increase the quality of life. My background is the Macintosh division of Apple Computer, and I can tell you with total certainty that we were not motivated by making money. We were motivated by changing the world to make people more creative and more productive. We were trying to increase the quality of life for the Macintosh user. And that was a great motivation. It kept us going through many, many difficult periods. We were waking up in the morning thinking how we could change people's lives. A second way to make meaning is to right a wrong. You know, that this fish is going to die after jumping out. But to right a wrong means that you find something that's wrong in the world, or you notice something that's wrong, or you want to fix that. This might be particularly applicable to not-for-profits where, you know, there's pollution, or there's crime, or there's abuse, and their very core is to end that wrong. And the third way to make meaning is to prevent the end of something good. That you see something beautiful, something wonderful, and you just can't stand the fact that it's been eroded, it's being changed, it's being ruined. So I ask you, as you start your companies, your not-for-profits, your churches, your schools, whatever you're starting, please have one of those 3 motivations, one or more of those motivations. If you don't have any of those motivations, I suggest that you rethink what you're doing. I think these 3 things are the key to starting a great organization. The second thing I learned is to make mantra. Many of you have not yet been polluted by the desire to make a mission statement. The desire to make a mission statement comes because you have a graduate school business degree, or perhaps you work for McKinsey for a summer, or something like that has ruined you. And so many, many entrepreneurs take it as one of the fundamental things they have to do is figure out a mission statement. So what they do is they grab the core team. There's somebody from marketing, from sales, from engineering, from production, finance, HR, and they go off-site and they craft this mission statement. And everybody has to put their 2 cents in, because this mission statement has to be workable for employees, for shareholders, for customers, for the dolphins, for the porpoises, you know, and the ozone hole, all that. All that has to be in a mission statement. So what I recommend is that you don't do a mission statement as a startup, because a mission statement usually ends up crap. It's too long, it's impossible to remember, it cannot even focus the company, which is what it should do. Inevitably, you will end up with a mission statement along these lines. The mission of Wendy's is to deliver superior quality products and services for our customers and communities through leadership, innovation, and partnerships. How many of you thought that that was Wendy's mission statement when you bought a hamburger there? How many of you think you could go to Trixie or Biff working at Wendy's and ask them, what's the mission of Wendy's, and they can repeat that word for word? It's impossible. That is a $50,000 mission statement done by a consulting firm. I love Wendy's, don't get me wrong, I love Wendy's. But the mission statement leaves a lot to be desired. By contrast, you should do a mantra. Do a mantra because it's only 3 or 4 words. It captures the essence of your organization. When you have 1,000 employees or 10,000 employees and you can hire a facilitator, you can go off-site and you can use McKinsey, God bless you, write this mission statement. It'll make you feel better. You can put it up on in your annual report. You can post it in your cafeteria, whatever you want to do. But right now, as an entrepreneur, make a mantra. Here are some mantras. First thing is, I think Wendy's proper mantra is healthy fast food. 3 words, healthy fast food. Somewhat oxymoronic, I must admit, but healthy fast food is something very easy to remember. Another good mantra, FedEx. FedEx's mantra, in my mind, should be peace of mind. Because when you absolutely, positively want something, someplace, you think of FedEx. The FedEx employee is thinking peace of mind for our customer. A third mantra from Nike, authentic athletic performance. Just do it is the slogan. It's the slogan for the customer. Authentic athletic performance is the mantra for the employee. That's what a Nike employee stands for, authentic athletic performance. And one of the best mantras is from Mary Kay, enriching women's lives. This is a good mantra because it works for two groups. The customer of Mary Kay, who buys the Mary Kay products, and also the salesperson of Mary Kay. It enriches both people's lives. So these are examples of mantras. And I would suggest to you that you come up with a 3 or 4 word thing like that. For me, my personal mantra is empowering entrepreneurs. That's what I do. Okay? Now, if some of you still have the desire to create a mission statement because, I don't know why, because you've been ruined somehow. So if you have this great desire to do a mission statement, rather than taking your team off-site and going away for a day and using a consulting firm and crafting some 50-word thing and wasting a lot of time and money, I suggest to you that you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. All you have to do is go to the Dilbert Mission Statement Generator website. And there, for absolutely no cost, you can get a mission statement like the one you want. Like, we exist to professionally build long-term, high-impact sources so that we may endeavor to synergistically leverage existing effective deliverables to stay competitive in tomorrow's world. See, that's a mission statement. I mean, that's something you can be proud of putting in your annual report. Don't pay $50,000 for this. Just go to the Dilbert Mission Statement Generator website. Okay? Ironically, entrepreneurs who should have this bias toward action often can't get going. They are victims of engineering creeping elegance, where they always want to add one more feature. Or they're marketing people and they need that external validation. They want to prove that there's a market. They have to read one more consulting study. Or they're trying to get a focus group to prove that the product works. They need one more focus group, one more test suite, one more something. It's a bunch of crap. So here's the 3 recommendations about getting going. The first is you've got to think different as an entrepreneur. Your goal should not be to do something 10 or 15 or 20% better. It should be to do something 10 times better. It should not be a slightly better Apple II. It should not be slightly better MS-DOS. It should be a completely different operating system. Think different. Build the product or service that you love. I moderated a panel on Saturday where a venture capitalist from Sequoia was on the panel. And he said that the best source of entrepreneurial talent for Sequoia, the best places and companies to fund, are people under 30 years old who are solving a personal problem. Hence Google, hence Yahoo, hence Cisco. That's the kind of sweet spot for a venture capitalist. Think different. Don't just do the 15th thing. Think different. The second point about getting going is do not be afraid of polarizing people. You know, many people are afraid to polarize people. That, my God, some people might not like what we do. And so they try to create this product or service that everybody likes. That is impossible. You should not be afraid of polarizing people. I'm not saying you should go and intentionally piss them off. But you should not be afraid of polarizing people. The ideal situation is where some people really love your product and some people hate your product. But very few people feel sort of disinterested or neutral towards your product. You know, something like a Toyota Scion XB, you either love that design and you think it's very cool, or you think that's a refrigerator on wheels. But there's nothing in the middle. There's nothing in the middle. Same thing with the Mini Cooper. Same thing with the Murano. Same thing with the Macintosh. Same thing with the Harley Davidson. Either love the product or hate the product. But don't be afraid to polarize people. And the third point is you need to find a few soulmates. I think there's a vast myth about entrepreneurship, that it's Steve Jobs changing the world single-handedly, Bill Gates changing the world single-handedly, Richard Branson changing the world single-handedly, Anita Roddick changing the world single-handedly, Mary Kay changing the world single-handedly. It's not true. It's not true. You need soulmates. You need, I think, ideally 3 people in a founding team. Because when one person falls down, you need the other 2 people to pick you up. And when one person is cold, you need other people to hug you and keep you warm. It's very hard to keep yourself warm. It's very hard to hug yourself, all right? So find the soulmate. For Bill Gates, there was Steve Ballmer. For Steve Jobs, there was Steve Wozniak. Find a few soulmates that balance you off, that keep you warm, that'll pick you up. Step 4 is to define a business model. This is a step we skipped from 1998 to 2001. A business model is very different today. These are the qualities of a business model. First of all, it is specific. It is a specific person buying your product or service. It's not anymore about hand-waving, about saying, well, we'll capture millions of eyeballs, and somehow we'll figure out how to monetize those eyeballs. But right now, we're just concerned with capturing millions of eyeballs. It's who is buying the product, specifically who. Not enterprise software, but what size enterprise? What vertical market is that enterprise in? Who in that enterprise is actually doing the purchasing? It's very specific today. Second point of a business model is you need to keep it very simple. As a venture capitalist, when we have people come in and say we have a unique business model, unique is a bad word. When we have a unique business model that no one has done before, in fact, our business model is so unique, we are filing a patent on the business model. That is an absolutely frightening thing to hear. You know, we want innovative technology. We want innovative services. We want innovative products. We do not want innovative business models. Fundamentally, you make something, you sell it, you collect the money. That's the kind of business model a VC can handle, okay? The third point is to ask women. This is a trickier recommendation. I believe, though I have no biochemical basis to make this assertion, that women are genetically superior to men in many ways, but in particular when it comes to business models. Because men have a genetic defect. They have a genetic defect called the killer gene. This killer gene makes men want to kill plants, kill animals, kill people. And to a large degree, the gene has been suppressed by society. However, one place where this killer gene continues to express itself is the desire to create a company, to kill another company. So people want to start a company to kill Microsoft, or kill Oracle, or kill PeopleSoft. And so what happens is, when you ask a man, do you think it's a good idea for me to drop out of the comp sci degree program at Stanford and I'm going to create this new piece of enterprise software, I'm going to kill Microsoft? Most men will say yes, because men are predisposed to wanting to kill things. Women, by contrast, don't have this genetic flaw. So this recommendation is, when you come up with a new idea, when you come up with an idea for a company, ask women about the product, the service, the business model. Don't waste your time asking men. The fifth point is to weave a mat, which stands for milestones, assumptions, and tasks. I'll use an ice hockey analogy, although none of you clearly play ice hockey. So hopefully some of you have ice skated. So, you know, when you ice skate or you play ice hockey, there's this thing called a Zamboni, and this machine comes out and it shaves the ice and it lays down a sheet of water. So the ice rink, the ice surface is just beautiful. It's flat, it's smooth, there's no ruts in it. It's just a wonderful thing. It's just pure, wonderful, white, virgin ice out there. Okay? To a large degree, a startup is like that. You know, when you start up a company, you don't have the crappy furniture, you don't have the employees that you found out were bozos after you hired, you don't have an installed base that's nagging you for bug fixes, you don't have the ugly logos that you designed one night, your stationery doesn't suck yet, you know, you don't have a crappy office in the wrong location. It's just pure virgin startup. So what happens in this situation is there's so many fun things to do, like working on a logo and working on your stationery and buying furniture and looking at commercial real estate, that your priorities get all whacked out. So this is about prioritization. The first priority is to create milestones for your company. Milestones are things like finish the design, finish the prototype, First customer ship. A milestone is something that you would go home and tell your spouse, honey, we shipped today. A milestone is not, honey, we ordered furniture today. That's not a milestone. A milestone is something that increases the valuation of your company. Shipping increases the valuation of your company. Filing for a patent trademark does not increase the valuation of your company. Create the milestones, top priority. The second thing, the A, is you need to write down your assumptions. The assumptions create the business model. How many sales calls can a salesperson make? What percentage will be successful? How many calls will a customer call tech support? How much will it cost to provide tech support to the average customer? These things need to be written down, and then they need to be tested. Because if you create a business model that assumes that you're going to get 1% of the people in China to be your customer, and you can make 80% successful sales calls, you're going to have a flawed model. You need to test those assumptions. And finally, the T is task. The task is stuff like rent an office. But a task is always used to either test an assumption or to complete a milestone. You rent an office when you need to finish your software because you need a place for the programmers. You don't rent an office because it's a wonderful, fun thing to do, going around looking at commercial real estate. So the order is milestone, assumption, and task, a MAT. The sixth thing is to niche thyself. This is all the marketing you ever need to know. It's also probably all the R&D and product design you ever need to know. I think that this chart can explain basically all of marketing and product design. On the vertical axis is the ability to produce a unique product or service. On the horizontal axis is the value of that service or product to the customer. As you might suspect, this is going to be a 2x2. And as you might suspect, you're going to want to be high and to the right. But let's go through the other corners first. The first corner is where you provide something of great value to the customer, but there are 10 other competitors doing it. At that point, you have to compete on price because it is not a unique product or service. It's an ugly place to be. Another corner is where you provide something and only you provide it, but nobody wants it. That's where you're stupid. In lower and to the left is the absolute worst corner. That's where you provide something that nobody cares about, and there are 10 ways to get it, and that's over here. That means you're a .com company. The prototypical example of a .com company was the ability to buy dog food online. That's why there's a dog food picture. You know, at the height of the .com phenomenon, you could buy a case of dog food online for 10% than what you would pay for by driving to a brick and mortar store, a PetMart or a Petco, right? You could save 10%. However, dog food is so heavy that you would pay $10 in shipping, which would be more than compensate for the 10% discount. So in effect, the dog food was of no value to the customer buying it online. However, there were 6 ways you could do it. There was pets.com, mypets.com, epets.com, ipets.com, lastminutepets.com, discountpets.com. There's 16 ways to buy dog food for more than you would pay in a store. That explains the .com phenomenon. So the holy grail of positioning in product design and marketing is to figure out how the hell you get into that corner where you are the single white tulip in a field of crappy other tulips. How do you do that? What is so unique about your product or service? It can be features, it can be price, it can be geographic location, it can be service levels. I don't know what it is, but whatever it is, how is it unique? And by the way, that unique element better be valuable to the customer. An example of a company that I think is very high and to the right is Fandango. So Fandango allows you to buy a movie ticket before you go to the movie. So you really know you have a ticket, and you can just zip through the line because they scan your printed out ticket, right? That's great value to the customer. And you can only buy it through Fandango. That company is high and to the right. So the basic proposition here is for you to be high and to the right. You can think of it as being like our president, high and to the right. Okay? The next thing is the art of pitching. Pitching is usually used to raise money, but pitching more generically is about the process of seeking agreement. You can seek agreement for money, you can seek agreement to recruit, you can seek agreement for partnership, you can seek agreement for sales. Pitching. You know the Latin saying of I think, therefore I am? For an entrepreneur, it is I pitch, therefore I am. An entrepreneur is always pitching. There is what I call the 10-20-30 rule. The 10 part of the 10-20-30 rule is that the optimal number of slides for a PowerPoint pitch is 10. Maybe it's 15, but it's not the 50 that you think it is. If you can cover these 10 subjects very well, the next step will be due diligence. Many people think that if you put 50 slides together, the audience will be overcome with shock and awe, and all they can ask is, how do I wire you the money? I have never, ever seen that happen, all right? The purpose of a pitch is to get to the next stage of due diligence. The purpose of a pitch is not to try to close the venture capital firm, the partner, the customer in that meeting. The second point is the 20. I think you should be able to use these 10 slides in 20 minutes. You may have a 60-minute meeting, but I guarantee you it'll start late. The partners from the firm will come in late. You're using a Windows laptop. You can't make it work with the projector. Something will go wrong. Something will go wrong. And the third point is 30-point font. The smallest font you should use on a slide is 30 points. This single recommendation will prevent you from getting in trouble with most slides. Lots of people like to use 8, 10, or 12-point font. They like to write out the entire paragraph, and then they read the paragraph. People can read faster than you can talk. So if you put all of the text that you want to say up on the slide, they will read it if they can see it, and they will be done before you've explained it. The ideal size font is 30. If you think this is too dogmatic, let me give you an algorithm. The algorithm is find out who the oldest person will be in the meeting, take that age and divide by 2. Okay? So unless you're presenting to 16-year-olds, do not use the 8-point font. The next recommendation is that you hire infected people. I think that an infected founding team is probably more important than a founding team that on paper has a good background in work experience or education. That people who love the product or service, that's more important than their degrees. It's more important than their work experience. Focus on the people who love the product or service. This means fundamentally you ignore what's irrelevant. And in many cases, education and work experience is irrelevant. This is completely contrary to what most VCs will tell you. If you have VCs further on into this course, and if you ask them, well, what are you looking for? They're going to tell you, and I'll tell you that right now. You can skip that lecture. They're going to say, we want proven teams with proven technology and proven traction. In other words, we want people who have founded Cisco, won a Nobel Prize, and they're doing $50 million in revenue. That's an early stage deal for a VC today. All right? By contrast, Garage is in a different business. We want unproven teams, unproven traction, and unproven technology. It's a completely different world. The irrelevant thing is that think about what an entrepreneur has to go through. So let's take what might seem very attractive to many venture capitalists. Let's say that on your founding team is someone who was a senior vice president at Microsoft. Most VCs would salivate at the thought. This is a proven executive. This executive has been with Microsoft for 10 years, has helped Microsoft grow, et cetera, et cetera. But if you peel the layers of the onion one level lower, you would see that that executive, during his or her career at Microsoft, had on average a war chest of $50 billion in Microsoft. During that time frame, they had a market share percentage of roughly 95%. During that person's tenure at Microsoft, that person's greatest fear was the antitrust division of the US Department of Justice. Now you're going to take that proven executive from Microsoft and stick them in a garage with $500,000, zero brand awareness, zero market share. I would make the case that that might not be the ideal hire for you. Okay? Now you may be wondering, why in the world are there diamond rings in this picture? It is because I am living proof of this theory. I graduated from Stanford in a psych degree, as I told you. I attended UC Davis Law School, and when you say you attended a school, it means you didn't finish. I attended 2 weeks, so I really, in fact, I never got started, actually. And after that, I went into the jewelry business. I enrolled the following year in an MBA program at UCLA, and while I was there, I started working in the jewelry business. My first job was literally counting diamonds. So on paper, if you were Apple Computer's recruiter, and you said, all right, so we need someone to go out and to convince the most technical audience we have, software developers, why they should write Macintosh software. I don't think the spec would say psych degree, law school dropout, marketing MBA, currently counting diamonds in Los Angeles. That might not be the sweet spot, okay? But what enabled me to be successful with Macintosh is I loved Macintosh. The scales were removed from my eyes the first time I saw it. The clouds parted, the angels started playing their trumpets. It was a religious experience for me. That's why I succeeded, because it ain't because of my psych degree, and it's not because I attended law school for 2 weeks, and it's not because I have a marketing degree from UCLA, all right? Ignore the irrelevant. What is relevant is they love the product. Second point, you should hire better than yourself. Very difficult for most founders, particularly engineering types, who believe that because of their superior chip speed, that they should be the best salesperson, the best finance person, the best marketing person, and the best engineering person. You need to hire people better than you. A players, by definition, hire A players. B players hire C players. And C players hire D players. So pretty soon, you'll be surrounded by Z players. Okay? That's what's called the bozo explosion. And what follows the bozo explosion is the layoff. Okay? So avoid the bozo explosion. The third thing is to apply the Stanford Shopping Center test. The way this works is, suppose you're at Stanford Shopping Center. You see someone who's being recruited by your company, who's interviewing at your company. The distance between you and the person when you first see him or her is from me to the back of the room. That person up there has not yet seen me, but I have seen them, or him, or her. So at this point, I have this sort of choices. I can rush over them and say, hi, how are you? I know you're interviewing. Can I tell you more about the company? I really think you should join our company. We're just going to kick some ass. We're going to make meaning. We're going to change the world with our technology. Or you can say, Stanford Shopping Center isn't that big. Maybe I'll bump into them. If I do, I'll say hello. If I don't, I won't say hello. The third reaction is I'm going to get in my car and go to Valco Shopping Center. Okay? If your reaction to the job candidate is not, I'm going to run over there and say hello to the person, don't hire the person. Because when you're creating a startup, it is a family. It is a dysfunctional family, honestly, but it is a family. If you don't feel the compulsion to run over there and say hello, it's probably not the right person. The ninth thing is to lower barriers to adoption. Here are the cases where you've created the world's greatest mousetrap, the nuclear-powered mousetrap. You kill mice better than anybody in the history of mankind. Mouse goes in there, there's a little explosion, little mushroom cloud, the mouse is gone. Okay? You murder mice really well. You got the design from Lawrence Livermore, or you stole it from Los Alamos. I don't know how you got it. Somehow, you really murder mice well. So here's the barriers to adoption. First of all, your mousetrap is nuclear-powered. However, you need a PhD in applied physics to set the mousetrap. The learning curve is so high. It's almost as difficult as setting the clock on a VCR. It's that high, right? The fundamental model, the metaphor that you should aspire to is you open the box, you plug in the cords, you go. That's what it should be like. You should not need a PhD in physics to set your mousetrap. Flatten the learning curve. By contrast, if any of you buy a BMW, there's something in the BMW called an iDrive, which is their interface for their electronics. if you take a 2-hour course, you will then be able to change the radio station. That is the antithesis of the flattening the learning curve. Second point is, to never ask people to do something that you yourself would not do. You wouldn't go back to school to get a PhD in physics to set a mousetrap. You wouldn't drive 300 miles to drop off a dead radioactive mouse. You wouldn't pay $250,000 for a mousetrap. Don't expect customers to do this either. The reason why there's a washing machine in this picture is because I have a positive example, which is the Kauai Hyatt Regency. The Kauai Hyatt Regency, in every wing of the hotel, there's a laundry room. That means there's one less guest room. It means that people send out less laundry through the laundry system than if you went into the laundry room, you would see that the washers and dryers are free. So at a Hyatt Regency at Kauai, they're not charging you to wash the clothes. That is a good example, a positive example of this theory. The third point is, you need to recruit evangelists. At the start of a company, you need to recruit evangelists. They're not stockholders, they're not employees. They see your product or service as a way to make the world a better place. There's no more higher leverage than recruiting evangelists. Evangelists view your product or service as bringing the good news. That's the Greek base word for evangelism. Bringing the good news. It means that you had to have thought differently, that you jumped curves, that you're not just better, faster, cheaper. You're fundamentally different. That's what evangelists do. They evangelize and proselytize things that are fundamentally different and better. Having seen the example of TiVo recruit evangelists, and Harley Davidson have evangelists, and Apple have evangelists, and Netflix have evangelists, at this point in e-commerce and commerce, you would think that people understand when you have a great product or service, you will get evangelists. I don't think that people have quite understood that. When you have this great product or service, I'm telling you, go get your evangelists. Don't wait for them to bubble up. Don't wait years for these groups to form. Go get them. Go get them. You will increase the leverage of your marketing sales tremendously by doing that. The 10th thing is to seed the clouds. This is about rainmaking, about sales. These are the things I learned about sales. First thing is, let 100 flowers blossom. This I stole from Chairman Mao, although it's not clear to me he implemented letting 100 flowers blossom. 100 flowers blossoms means that at the start of a company, you'll often see your people who are not your intended customers using your product or service, and they're going to be using it in ways you didn't anticipate. Many entrepreneurs go crazy. My God, the wrong people are buying our products in large quantities. What are we doing wrong? Let's get marketing and sales in here. We need to reposition the product because we know who should buy our product. Well, that's categorically stupid. Fundamentally, when you see this happening, first of all, take the money. Take the money. There's two theories in engineering for revising a product. One is you go to the people who aren't buying your product and you ask them, why aren't you buying our Macintosh, Mr. Fortune 500 CIO? And the CIO will say, you don't have a letter quality printer driver. You don't have Lotus 1, 2, 3. You come back to the lab, you convince Lotus to do it. You get a letter quality printer driver. You go back to the Fortune 500 CIO. You say, all right, we listened. Now there's a printer driver. Now there's 1, 2, 3. They still won't buy it. They still won't buy it. The other theory in engineering is you go to the people who are buying your product, Mr. Desktop Publishing or Ms. Desktop Publishing. Why are you buying our product? Because it's WYSIWYG, because it's high-resolution printing. So you come back to the labs and you say, wow, people are buying our product to use it for desktop publishing, not spreadsheet, database, and word processing like we intended. And what do they need for desktop publishing system? They need bigger monitors. They need higher resolution printers. They need higher resolution monitors. They need all these things to make desktop publishing better. That's my theory. Fix for who's buying. Ignore the people who are atheists. Atheists are too hard to convert to your religion. Go for agnostics and go for believers. Forget the atheists. Second point is, you need to enable people to test drive your product. That you're saying to them, I think you're smart, and because I think you're smart, I'm not going to bludgeon you into becoming my customer. Take home my product, take home my service, try my software, try my website, then you decide. The third point is to suck down. One of the fundamental shortcomings of sales training is that you think, or many people think, that selling a new product is about sucking up. You need to suck up to CXO level people, suck up to a CIO, suck up to a CTO, suck up to a CEO, a CMO, sucking up to CXO level people. It has been my experience that particularly from a tech startup, The people who truly make the decision to try a product or service are not the people with CXO, vice president, or director level titles. They are the people who are administrative aides and database administrators and tech support people. They're the interns, they're the summer hires. They're people without titles. They're the people who really do the work, however. And so if you want to be successful in sales, you have to understand something, that in most organizations, the higher you go, the thinner the oxygen, and therefore the more difficult it is to find intelligent life, right? So if you dedicate yourself in a sales effort to sucking up, you'll be sucking up to the dumbest people in the organization. You need to learn to suck down, and you need to learn to suck across, because that's where the decisions are made for a high-tech startup. Suck down, suck across, don't just suck up. And the 11th thing, and the bonus, is to be a mensch. Mensch is a Yiddish word to describe a person who's very admired, who's trusted, whose word is sought, whose opinion is sought, who is sort of like a saint, except you don't need to be dead to be a mensch. There's no higher praise for a person than to be a mensch. So let's talk about the elements of menschdom. The first is that a mensch helps people who cannot help them. A mensch is not motivated by the fact of, wow, this person is the Western regional manager for the Wall Street Journal, and if I suck up to this Wall Street Journal person, maybe I'll get some good press. This person can help me, therefore I will help them. A mensch doesn't think like that. A mensch thinks, I'll help people for the sheer pleasure of helping people. You know, a waiter can't really do much for you. I guess they could bring your food, but you know, besides that, they can't do very much. You want to see a good test for a mensch is watch how they treat waiters and waitresses and flight attendants. Because anybody can suck up to someone with a CXO level title, but it's how you treat people who cannot help you. That determines if you're a mensch. The second point is to do the right thing the right way. It is not about who can shred their corporate documents faster than Enron. It is about whether you're doing things right and you're doing the right way. It is about morality. There is a bright, hard, fast line. You know, I think that when you're growing up, there is a very hard, fast, bright line taught to you by your parents. But then as you get more and more into the business world, it tends to become more and more relative. You know, we're not as bad as Enron, right? That's the attitude. That attitude is completely wrong. A mensch draws a hard, fast line. And the third point of being a mensch is that you desire to pay back society. That entrepreneurs are blessed. They're blessed with vision and energy and the ability to recruit, the ability to create great things. And because of that blessing, you have a moral obligation to pay back society. Ultimately, at the end of one's life, you are judged not by your market share, not whether you beat the U.S. Department of Justice Antitrust Division, not because you had the most German cars or Italian cars. You are judged by, did you make the world a better place? And so to truly be the greatest entrepreneur, you would be a mensch. You would do all the right things. You would help people who cannot help you. And you would fundamentally pay back society. You have a moral obligation to pay back society. You know, it's very difficult to raise money. And so the probability is you won't raise money. So in some sense, people may never raise money and they'll bootstrap forever. However, I think the attitude of bootstrapping, that you don't buy $800 chairs, that you don't run Super Bowl commercials, is something that should be in the DNA of a company. You should always be a bootstrapper, even if you have $10 million in the bank. And so I think, having watched the dot-com phenomena, that too much money is worse than too little. And that if you look at the great companies, they never really raised boatloads of money. You know, Yahoo didn't, Google didn't. These kinds of companies, they either, you know, who knows, looking backwards, they were either lucky and found a business model that took off right away, or they fundamentally had something that was so viral, so spreadable by evangelism that they didn't need to pour big bucks into it. So, you know, on the other hand, if you're offered venture capital, I would take it. I would take it because living off soy sauce and rice isn't that much fun. But that's for a precious few who can take the money or who can get the money. And if you do get the money, but then I suggest that you not spend it because it just warps you. And I have been warped by raising capital for Garage. We had a lot of money raised. And so it warped us. And that's one of the mistakes I made at Garage. So. To a large degree, evangelists find you. And that if you have a compelling product or service, you will attract evangelists, and they will probably start pounding on you to become evangelists for your company. So, you know, this is what's called Guy's Golden Touch. Guy's Golden Touch is whatever is gold, Guy touches, which is very different from saying whatever I touch turns to gold. So what I'm trying to say to you is if you have a great product or service, i.e. gold, people will want to touch it. And if you have crap, then it's hard to get evangelists. So the key here is, and I could teach you the fine points of evangelism, but that would take a whole nother hour. But you know, the essence is create something great. You know, great companies start with a great product or service. I really believe in the concept of if you build it, they will come. Very few other VCs believe that, but I really believe that. I think I'm a product kind of guy, and I'm just a product guy trapped in a marketing body. And so that's how you get evangelists. You build something great, and if you build something great, then I can touch you and help you, you know, get the evangelist. But the fundamental thing is build something great. It's a tricky question because to a large degree, the way you find soulmates is from your existing group of friends, right? And so you groove together and you have the same vision and you like the same things. And so, you know, by nature, it's just sort of the proximity that you find these soulmates. And sometimes you're thrust together as roommates or, you know, whatever. The danger in that is that sometimes because of the proximity, you make your roommate the CTO. And then in a year, you know that this person is not a CTO anymore. This person is really sort of a entry-level programmer. But because he's your buddy or she's your buddy and they were a founder, so now you're stuck. And you know, that person feels like they have to have the word chief somewhere in their name, their title. That's the difficult part. But I think a soulmate is to a large degree about your social circle. I mean, it really is. The way I found soulmates for my companies was people I just had known for a long, long time. And it is a difficult process and a tricky process because at many points, you know, one of the hard things to do is when a soulmate is not fulfilling the function. Very difficult thing. But at that point, what you have to remember is that your responsibility is to the company. It's not to the person. It's to the company. But it's still difficult to implement that. Actually, if you want to be a venture capitalist or an entrepreneur, what you should do is you should either go to work for a large company, believe it or not, like a Procter & Gamble, where you truly learn the process of sales, or you should go to work for any, you know, kind of tech startup. Let me tell you, so what I guess I want you to do is get hands-on experience. I want you to go out there and get bludgeoned. I want you to get rejected in sales calls. The most important thing I think you could learn for an entrepreneur is how hard it is to sell stuff. Now, this means if you go to Microsoft and you have 95% market share, it might not be such a good lesson. But any kind of structured sales thing, the worst thing you can do to become an entrepreneur or to become a venture capitalist is to go into investment banking. Because if you go into investment banking, you'll get what's called Morgan Stanley disease. And Morgan Stanley disease is when I give people my business card, when I tell them where I work, they sort of, you know, they're like so impressed that I work for Morgan Stanley. And so pretty soon, at age 25, you think that you really know what's going on. And so there are people who make the position, and there are positions who make the people. And so to a large degree, if you work for an investment bank like a Morgan Stanley, after a while, you get this Morgan Stanley disease, and you really think you know what the hell's going on. And so pretty soon, you go from investment banking, then you go to work for, you know, Kleiner Perkins or something, and then now you're giving all these young entrepreneurs advice based on your 0 years of having run a company. And so that is the worst case scenario. I would never start my career as a venture capitalist or investment banker because it will fundamentally corrupt you. It will just eat your brain out. It will just, there's nothing worse you could do. I think one of the best things you could do is go to work for a startup that fails, because that's where you'll learn a lot. Oh, I wouldn't brag about it. I mean, because when you work for a startup that fails, you truly see, you know, the mistakes that are made and what you did wrong. And one of the hardest lessons I had to learn was the difference between correlation and causation. Because as they say, a rising tide floats all boats, or more accurately, what? Oh. What? Correlation and causation? Hey, I was a psych major. What can I tell you? All right, so hallelujah, kumbaya. So this correlation and causation, and you know, a rising tide floats all boats, or as they say, in a tornado, even a turkey can fly. And so many people did not realize they're turkeys. They were just in a tornado. And so that's the difficult thing. Don't be an investment banker and don't be a venture capitalist. You know, aim higher. Well, let me be crystal clear. I think experience is vastly overrated when it comes to a tech startup. That I think that, and there are zero VCs who are going to agree with most of what I'm going to say now, but I think that the sweet spot for a tech entrepreneur is, shall I be ageist and racist, or just ageist or just racist? I think the sweet spot is someone in their 20s in an engineering curriculum at Stanford, MIT, Carnegie Mellon, you know, you pick a school. That's the sweet spot. And if you look at the great companies that truly changed the world, if you looked at the founding team, the first 2 or 3 employees, they were unproven, absolutely unproven. Not only were they unproven, they were clueless. They had no idea how hard it would be to do what they're going to do. And so that's why at 50, I have no desire to be a CEO anymore. I do not want to be a CEO. I will never start another company. I actually have 3 startups, Nick, Noah, and Noemi. They are 3, 9, and 11. And when they graduate college, I'm going to have 3 IPOs, you know? But so, see, when you get to be like 50, you know how hard it is to do everything. And you know how there are other important things in the world. So I think you need to start the company now when you're like this age, because you have nothing to lose and you don't know how hard it is. and once you have a lot to lose and you know how hard it is, you're not going to do it. You're going to hedge your bet. You're going to wish you went to work for Morgan Stanley. So you need to do it now. You know, when I was evangelizing Macintosh, it was 1984, so I was 30. So I really didn't know anything yet. And that was, ignorance is not only bliss, it is also empowering. So if today someone said, you know, guy, we're going to start a new company, it's going to have a new personal computer operating system, and based on your track record with Macintosh, we think you really know how to evangelize a new operating system, so we want you to become, you know, either CEO or whatever, CMO or whatever, you know, Chief Evangelist Officer, because we want you to repeat the Macintosh phenomenon of getting all this great software. There is not enough money printed to make me do that, because I know, having done it with Macintosh, how hard it would be. So you need to find someone like me who doesn't know that to do that. But I have too much knowledge. I am too smart to do something that hard. So that's why I think the great companies are with young people who don't know how hard it is. Because if you knew, you wouldn't do it.